Welcome back to the Aligned Sacred Alchemy podcast. I'm your host, Raspreet Sagu. If you've ever wondered, I'm doing everything they say I should, so why do I still feel stuck, invisible, overwhelmed, exhausted? If you've ever thought that, then this episode is for you. Because mainstream healing is obsessed with the how. We get taught how to journal, how to manifest, how to heal, how to change your mindset, how to raise your vibration and call in love, money, and success. But what they don't tell you is that without understanding the why, the how falls flat. And if you've been doing all the right things and still feel like healing isn't working for you, it's not because you're broken. It's because the tools that you've been handed were never designed for a life, culture, body, and lineage that you actually live inside of. So, in this episode, I want to share a little bit about why the healing isn't just about learning new tools. It's about unlearning survival patterns, inherited silence, and cultural expectations that were never meant to be yours. And why learning the how, the healing tools, without understanding the why, which is the root system and your soul context, keeps you stuck in survival mode, and how anchoring into your why is going to be the thing that sets you free. We're also going to talk a little bit about how the healing culture accidentally shames women like you, why it's not your fault that the affirmations, the vision boards, the gratitude lists aren't creating a real, sustainable, tangible, and lasting, permanent change in your life. And it's not your fault. And the thing that they don't tell you is that real transformation isn't about doing more. It's about becoming more of you, of yourself, how you express yourself, and how you can finally move from surviving in your life to actually living and thriving within it. There is a difference between surviving and getting by and thriving. And the missing piece of the healing and manifesting puzzle for women like us, and why learning your creative frequency will change the way you heal, manifest, and create forever. This is what I'm going to be going into during the course of this episode. So stay tuned. And a little side note, because I'm not in the business of gatekeeping and leaving you hanging with more information and no solutions, right? If you've been in my world, you know that there is always a solution for those of you who want to go deeper with this that I'm going to offer. And so there is something waiting for you at the end of this episode that's going to help you to shift this in a way that finally makes sense for women like us, but only if you're ready to do it in your way. So let's get cracking, because there's a lot to discuss today. So make yourself comfortable and make mental notes to see where this all applies in your life, in your transformational and healing and manifesting and creativity journey. Because if you're anything like the brilliant women that I meet, you've probably already done a ton of inner work. You've tried the journaling, maybe you've dabbled in forgiveness practices or gratitude rituals, maybe you've been circling the healing world, picking up tools, following steps, doing your best to do the inner work. And yet you're stuck, you're still stuck, you feel exhausted, and you might be asking yourself, why is this damn stuff not working for me when you can see it's working for others, right? And I'm here to tell you something that no one is saying loud enough. And that is that it's not that you're not doing it right. It's that the tools that you've been handed were never designed for the life that you are living. So we've already touched upon the fact that mainstream healing is obsessed with the how to manifest, raise your vibration, how to create boundaries and call in love. But because it completely ignores the why it hasn't worked for you, why your nervous system shuts down even when you are doing the work, and why the tools that seem to work for others just leave you feeling more broken, more ashamed, and more convinced that maybe you're the problem, right? That's not healing. That's harm. And so in today's episode, I want to flip the script. I want to show you why concepts like forgiveness and gratitude fall flat until you understand the real source and the context behind them, and why centering the why changes everything. So by the end of this episode, you're going to start to understand why the healing tools that you've been using religiously and have been so disciplined with them haven't quite landed for you, and why your cultural and emotional context matters more than any step-by-step process. And then we're going to start building upon how to start reclaiming your energy in a way that actually honors you. Okay? So let's dive in and talk about the why and the how, and why these two things matter so much. You've probably learned what you need to heal and create the change you desire in your life. Now we've got to understand the why. I used to always ask questions as a kid, and I would be called insolent. So I would be the one asking, why are we covering our heads at the temple when we'd go? And I was really little. Why are the men separated from the women? Why do we do this? Why don't we do that? And I would be called insolent. But the thing is, and I explain it even now when I ask the questions and I'm curious or inquisitive, people get irritated by it because they often don't know the answers. And so the easiest thing to do is, oh, I don't know. It's just the way it's done. Oh, it's just tradition. This is just the way it's done. And I think the same kind of thing happens in self-development, mainstream healing and all of that. You're doing things without actually knowing the context behind it. And one thing I know from personal experience and working with hundreds and hundreds of clients, and once they arrive at the why we are doing things, it suddenly becomes easier. Like something clicks in their brains, in their cells, in their energetic field, where now you understand why you're doing the thing. It's actually much easier for you to do. Not only is it easier for you to do, it's easier for you to stick to it. So it becomes something that you can anchor into. If you don't know why you're doing it, it's like trying to throw spaghetti at the wall and hoping it's going to stick, right? So this is why we really need to understand the why. Why is it even true that you need to use the tools and techniques in the way that you've been taught? Why do you need the forgiveness, the acceptance, the boundaries, apart from all the obvious reasons, of course? Because learning the concept gives you the energy, but then learning the source of a concept actually creates a permanency of the energy inside of you. In other words, when you know why something is happening, it creates a longer form of energy that stays within you versus just hearing a nice concept, right? I remember as a child when we would learn maths or anything in school, like biology, any concepts, some of my friends were able to just rote fashion learn something. They had photographic memories, and as long as they were reciting things, as long as they were just reading a page and then they could write it over and over again, rote fashion learning, it would stick. But I think for many of us, especially the women that I work with, we don't learn. That is not our learning style. That is not even just a learning style. That is just not how we function and we operate. And so learning the why becomes an anchor point for us, because when you understand the concept, and this was certainly true of me and my experiences from school days, it still is to this day with everything. If I understand why something is being done, if I understand the actual concept behind it, it's very easy to remember. It's very easy for my brain to be, oh, okay, now we understand that, it makes sense. And so the next natural step is to actually do the thing and to do it with the energy. So you're initiating the actual practice, whether it's your gratitude practice or whether it's something else or a healing tool or tapping or NLP or whatever it is, right? The energy with which you do it is now shifted. So this is more of a energetic shift than anything else. Because it goes from being, oh, that's a lovely concept. I'd love to be a more forgiving person. I'd love to be a more kind person. I'd love to be a more compassionate person. I'd love to have more self-love and, do all the self-care and the boundary setting and all of that. That is a really nice concept, and I can see the value of doing that. I can see why I need to do it, but I don't understand it. I don't understand why I should forgive that toxic person in my world who's hell-bent on sabotaging every success or happiness and actively goes out of their way to hurt me, right? Because forgiveness or gratitude is a beautiful concept, right? But then what about when you're faced with that toxic person, right? Why should I be grateful for my family constantly pressuring me to be who they need me to be so that they can get what they need from me to live their best life while I compromise everything to uphold their dreams? Meanwhile, in my time of need, no one steps up to support me with my dreams. Why should I be grateful for that? Do you see how it kind of falls flat? And then you can go into being grateful, but then you have this niggling energy where it's like, no, I'm not grateful because my lived experiences are telling me otherwise. No, there is a conflict of energy. There is a mismatch. There is something that is out of attunement within you. So when you are doing the gratitude or you are doing the forgiveness or acceptance or whatever it is that you're doing, your energy is not quite there. So it doesn't land. Here's another way to look at it. Concepts create momentary, temporary relief, whereas context is what creates lasting alchemy. Most people have been handed the what, this buffet of tools, rituals, prompts, strategies, but not the why, which is the root system, the cultural lineage, the energetic mechanics, and the personal resonance that all holds everything together underneath it. And that, my friends, is the difference between eating spiritual fast food and actually integrating soul level nourishment. So let's now unpack the harm of the how heavy healing culture that a lot of us have been exposed to, right? And what happens when you're just focused on the how. Okay, number one, the how becomes a bypass. It becomes a way to bypass things. It tricks people into performing. It tricks you into thinking, if I just meditate harder or set stronger boundaries or journal every day, I'll finally fix myself. But without the why, those actions are rooted in shame, not power. They're done to correct yourself, but not to honor yourself. So it's done in a way of there is something wrong with me. I am internally shaming myself, and therefore I need to fix this thing, because if I'm a jealous person, if I'm an angry person, I need to change that. Therefore I need to meditate, or therefore I need to do this or do that. So it's rooted in shame rather than honoring yourself. Okay, and it becomes very easy to start weaponizing these tools, which are actually quite magical and quite powerful, because the energy from which you're doing it is that internalized shame or oppression. Okay, number two, it can lead to emotional outsourcing. What I mean by that is that people start looking for more experts, more courses, more scripts. Let me just go to the next podcast. Let me just do this next thing. Let me just do this next training. Let me buy a book. Let me read another book. And they stop trusting their own timing, their own rhythms, and their own knowing. And so healing becomes a race, which is fueled by urgency instead of curiosity. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit of story time here, because the last few years, if you listen to my last podcast, you'll have listened in on how it's been a really rough ride for me for the last few years. And this is exactly what I was bumping up against, this emotional outsourcing, where I was just like, I need to throw more money at this. I need to find more courses. I need to revisit some of the courses that I've already done. I need more. And it got to the point where all my rhythms were out of whack. All my timing was out of whack. All my knowing, I stopped listening to my intuition. I stopped trusting my intuition. I started doubting myself because of all the stuff that was going on around me, and I just couldn't see the tree from the woods. And so it became a race fueled by urgency, because I was like, no, I need to get out of this. I need to control this. I need to get out of this. There has to be a way, and I'm going to do it in my time. And so I wasn't considering my natural rhythms. I wasn't considering my creative frequency in all of this. I wasn't considering my creative blueprint in all of this. All of these things, if you haven't heard me talk about these before, creative frequency is my latest thing that if you haven't taken the quiz and you don't know what your creative frequency is, go ahead and take my quiz. Shameless plug there. But it is amazing. Like, it is the best thing I have created in a long, long time, right? And this is why I created it, because I was going through this, oh my gosh, this like headless chicken sort of energy where I was doing all the things because I was so desperate. I just wanted help. I just needed to get out of this crap rock bottom that I'd hit. And so it was like this urgency and desperation, rather than what I am now in, which is genuine curiosity. Hey, what's going on here? Hey, let's slow it down a bit. Hey, I can see that I'm feeling stressed out. Like recently, when I was actually ironically doing this quiz, I was creating the quiz, I was doing the back end and all the tech stuff. I ran into so many problems. And because I started to get back into that desperation and urgency energy, more and more things started to go wrong. And then it snowballed. It started off with the quiz glitching or the back end glitching. I finally managed to get that sorted, sent an email out to my community to say, hey, it's back, it's online, you can go do it. Only to find that it was sending people to the wrong page. There was something weird going on. Ended up my whole website broke, the internet broke, and I just had to stop. Where I had been in emotional firefighting mode, emotional outsourcing, looking for experts, looking for help outside of myself, when all I really needed to do, and as soon as I did this, was reconnect back to myself, honor my own rhythms and my times, and I realized I was doing too much and I needed a break. And as soon as I had the realization, and as soon as I gave myself permission to just walk away and just take a breath and don't worry about the launch, don't worry about getting it all out there in perfect timing, that, this timing that I thought that I had in my head of when I wanted everything out. Guess what happened? All the issues resolved. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Within less than an hour, all of the issues suddenly disappeared. So sometimes it's the universe trying to tell you and give you pointers on what you're doing and old patterns that you're going into. And it's up to you to pick up those signals and respond to them. All right. So number 3 is the how ignores your context. Mainstream healing tools were not built with cultural, relational, or ancestral nuance in mind. They are very whitewashed, is what I would say. Okay, they often assume there is a default human, which is individualistic, Western, and emotionally safe, with lots of privileges that many people of color do not have. So when you apply them in a layered, complex reality for someone who is a person of color who's dealing with different types of family dynamics, spiritual suppression, inherited silences, all of the internalized depression, internalized shame within the actual culture that they've grown up in, it just doesn't land. And in fact, not only does it not land, it often re-traumatizes the person, right? But don't worry, this all feels like very doom and gloom, like, oh my God, there's nothing out there for us. But no, there is. And we're going to go into that now. We're going to talk about why is the real medicine. All right. So all those times where I was called insolent in my life as a little child, and even now for asking the question why, I was intuitively doing the exact thing I always should have done, and each one of us should be doing. We should be questioning things that we don't understand. We should be trying to get context behind why we are doing the things that we're doing, because that can then put us through this filter system, our soul's filter system, to see if that is correct for us or not. And we listen to that. And that is your intuition. That is the way that you get to your intuition. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but like creative frequency, what exactly is it? Really and truly, in very simplistic terms, it's your creativity, the gifts, the way that you uniquely create, the blueprint that you have to create in this lifetime with the skill set that you have, that you've accrued not only in this lifetime, but also in other lifetimes, not only in your past lifetimes, but also the ancestral lineage that you come with and the ancestral gifts and talents that are active in your specific DNA, right? Along with your intuition. And your intuition is going to be completely bespoke to you. Only you are going to be able to perceive your intuition in the way that you perceive it. And it's going to sound differently than it is to anyone else. So when you have those two bits meet, like think of a Venn diagram, you've got your creativity, you've got your intuition, and the little bit in the middle, which is the shaded part, that's your creative frequency. All right. So it goes through that filter system and allows you to access your creative frequency, which is why it's so important to understand why the why is the real medicine, right? Because number one, it gives meaning to the discomfort. So when I understand why I'm forgiving, I can feel that shift in my nervous system. Forgiveness stops being like a moral checkbox and starts becoming an energetic liberation. I'm not doing it just to be a good girl. I'm not doing it because that's what good girls do. I'm not doing it because that's what people expect, that I need to be nice here. I'm a spiritual person, therefore I have to be forgiving. There are times where it's not appropriate to forgive. But if you are always wrapped up in, oh, I must forgive, I need to do this forgiveness exercise, I need to do this because I'm spiritual, then you're actually not listening to your intuition. Sometimes your intuition will be saying, no, this thing is not forgivable at this point. Let's not do that yet because we have to deal with some other things before we can arrive at that. Okay? So it's not a performative action of being good. Once you really understand the context of the why, then you're doing it to cut the cord or the soul cord of entanglement, right? So number two, the why connects us to our lineage, not just our logic. It roots your work that you're doing, the inner work, the tools that you're using in memory, in your personal, your ancestral, and the collective memory. So instead of trying to manifest abundance from a scarcity wound, you're now calling in overflow because you finally remember you were never meant to carry your family survival trauma in the first place. Right? So again, it's a way to shift the energy with which you initiate the actual tool, whatever it is that you're doing, the journaling, the automatic writing, the channeling, the healing, the tapping, whatever it may be for you. And then the third thing it does is it moves you from compliance, like I'm going to do this because somebody told me to do it. An outer authority. Ras once said forgiveness was really powerful and it's going to liberate me and therefore I'm going to do it. Right? Or the gratitude practice. Someone told me that this changed their life and therefore I'm going to do it because I trust this person, I honor them, I trust their opinions, and therefore I'm going to do it. So it moves you from being compliant, blindly compliant, into co-creation. So you're not just doing gratitude, you're choosing to amplify your soul's frequency so you stop attracting people who only see you as a resource. You're going to start attracting those people who are going to reciprocate, who are going to want to collaborate, who are going to want to support you in any way that they can, right? You start going from compliance into co-creation. So there's a couple of cool analogies I came up with that might help put things into perspective for you, right? If you think about the concepts, the why and the how, right? Think about concepts as borrowed clothes. So the concept of gratitude, the concept of healing, the concept of manifesting, the concept of raising your vibration, the concept of the law of attraction, like insert whatever it is, whatever teaching, there is a concept behind that, right? Think of that concept as borrowed clothes. The why is when you tailor them to fit your body, your culture, and your pain. The how, you can consider that as a recipe. So if it was a recipe, the why is the fire, and without the fire, nothing gets cooked. Knowing the what is the candle, knowing the why is the sun. Can you see that the how is definitely important and it's needed because it initiates something, but you can't do the why without the how. At the same time, the how is irrelevant if the why isn't there. Yeah, so they're interconnected. They're both important, which is why I say that even though I'm calling out some of the mainstream practices, it's not that there's anything inherently wrong with them. It's the way that they're being taught. It's the way that there's a whole group of us, people of color or people who don't have access or privileges. We're just completely being wiped out in this equation. And this is why I want to point this out to you, because my intention with this is not to leave you drowning in self-judgment, self-blame, and shame cycles, right? So please know that it's not that you're not trying hard enough. It's that the tools that you've been given were built for people who've never had to carry what you do. Your family honor, cultural shame, the silent weight of being the strong one, the useful one, the one who's always invisible, but still has to plaster a smile on their face and carry on. You've been trying to manifest from a place of suppression, not power. You've been healing from the outside in, and now this is your sign to reverse that. Because creative frequency is not just a concept, it is your unique energetic blueprint. It's the way your soul creates when it's finally allowed to move without shame. When you understand it, you stop forcing strategies that don't work for you, and you start living and manifesting and expressing in a way that actually feels like you. So if you're done with surface level shifts and you're ready for something real, and you are tired of asking the universe for signs and then getting radio silence, maybe this is the answer you've been looking for. You don't need to wait any longer. You don't need to beg for support from places that benefit from you being stuck and small. Because let's face it, they're not going to want to lose their benefits from you being stuck and playing small. This is your message from above telling you to stop asking for answers and then ignoring them when they come dressed in a form that you weren't expecting. Stop trying to blame or fix yourself. You're not stuck. You're not broken. If you feel stuck, it's because you're trying to heal with tools that were never made for you. They need tweaks. They need adjustments. And nobody's told you how to make those adjustments. All right? So you've been trying to build a life with blueprints that were designed to actually keep you small, to shrink you. And your soul has been politely screaming, "No, this isn't for us. No." And now it's getting louder and louder and louder. And the louder it gets, the more chaos seems to erupt in your life. Because God already heard you and the universe already answered. Now here's where I have to put on that mummy tough love energy and call you out on something. Look, no one's going to come and hand you your healing on a silver platter. It's already been placed in your path, but it's your move now. And if you're listening to this, then it's because you're starting to remember. Your soul guided you to hear this message. Your soul guided you to this podcast episode at this time. This isn't just another thing to fix about yourself. It's not just another thing to give you more concepts, because I'm willing to bet you already have an entire library of those. This is a message for you to hand back the power that you've outsourced to others most of your life. So you can take back your own knowing, your own rhythm, your own sacred truth and your power, and return to your soul's true essence and brilliance. And my invitation to you is to come and discover your creative frequency. I told you I made a quiz just for that. And before you think it, no, it's not one of those fluffy quizzes that are fun, but they don't actually change your life. No, this one's going to help you identify your creative frequency and where you're prone to leak energy, so that you have none left for yourself. And I've thrown in a mini activation that people have fed back to me I should be charging for. It's that good. But of course, this is a no-cost thing, right? That activation, if you actually apply what I share in it, it's going to help you shift something in less than a week. Someone who took the quiz shared to me recently something super powerful that happened with her. She told me that this simple, less than 10-minute exercise I shared on day 3 helped her to do something she has been rehearsing in her head for years, to finally say the thing she's always wanted to say to someone at work. And of course, I've got permission from her to share this story. I'm not going to name names, but I am sharing the story because this was so amazing. Before she said to me that she would play it out in her head 1,000 times, how it was going to go, rehearsing the conversation, perfecting the words, summoning the courage to say it next time when the situation arose. How many of you have done that before? How many of you have had a situation that you're dealing with on repeat, and you go home or you're in the shower or you're rage journaling and you're like, no, next time I'm going to say that, next time I'm going to say that, and you've got this whole conversation rehearsed in your head, right? So This client of mine who took the quiz said she had been doing this for a couple of years now. But when it came down to the time to actually speak up and say the stuff she's been practicing and rehearsing in her mind, she would freeze, she would chicken out, and she would swallow it down at the last minute. And then she would regret later on why she didn't speak up, because she had the words already, she'd rehearsed them enough times in her head, right? But she said to me, she took this activation, she did the activation, she actually applied what I told her to do on the third day of receiving this email, and something shifted. She didn't just think about it, she followed through. So the next time she was faced with this situation, she was able to speak her truth without bracing for the backlash. And guess what happened? The person who used to make her life hell at work backed off. They completely shifted their behavior without any confrontation. Because when you shift your energy and you stand in your creative frequency and you plug the leaks that you have been leaking energetically, the world can't help but to respond differently to you. And notice that nothing dramatic had to happen for her. She didn't change who she was. She didn't do any more mindset work. She didn't have to fix herself first. There wasn't even this huge confrontation and nastiness that she was expecting in her head. All that happened was that her energy shifted and everything around her started shifting too. This was just one activation, one spark, one small door she said yes to opening. Am I saying that everyone who takes the quiz and receives these activations will have the exact same experience? Of course not. Because healing isn't a vending machine, right? Let's be real. Every single one of you has a certain blueprint of energy based on your cultural imprinting, upbringing, and experiences. Not to mention the amount of inner work, the depth of the inner work that you've already done will be very unique to you. But if you've ever done any sort of inner work, even if it's just a tiny moment of awareness, a single hard-won breath, one tiny little light bulb moment, this is the kind of activation that's going to help your wisdom finally click into place. Because when you do this, you're finally working with your energy and not against it. This is the part that's missing from the mainstream self-help and manifesting for women like us. It's not taking into account our lived experiences and the delicate relationship and family dynamics that we cannot erase just by doing a daily gratitude list, forgiveness exercises, and vision boarding and the rest of it. So my advice to you today, go take the damn quiz. It's not going to cost you a penny. It's just going to cost you your honesty and your devotion to yourself. Because, dear listener, you have got to be more invested in yourself than anyone else on this planet. More than your partner is, more than your boss, more than your mother, your siblings, your father, your coaches or healers or gurus or whoever else. So the only cost of taking this quiz is your willingness to stop waiting for permission and start choosing yourself like your life depends on it, because truly it does. So go take it. It's 6 soul awakening questions. It takes less than 90 seconds. And if you're a fast reader, probably less than a minute, but it might just change everything for you. And again, I'm going to have to go into that mummy tough love energy again, because like I tell my kids all the time, I'm going to share this with you too. You can ask God or the universe for help, and of course that help is going to be made available to you, but it's up to you to make the effort to receive it. So here's my invitation to you if you wish to receive the support with this, and it's not going to cost you a penny. So what have you got to lose, really? Come on. Just your time, your radical truth with yourself and your presence, and perhaps your devotion to yourself. The quiz is already there. It's waiting. Let's remember who you were before the world told you to be someone else. And as always, I will share all the links in the show notes. That's all for now. Thanks for tuning in. Happy creating, and I'll see you in the next episode.